Hey, I'm Lucas Graham. This is Tour Stories with Pop Flash. I guess the biggest problem with telling tour stories for people like us that do tour a lot is that we don't really know exactly what's interesting. Of course, the obvious, like gritty stuff is interesting, but it's been so long since at least I was single and on tour that we hardly remember them anymore. It was a good time. For me, what has become pretty crazy about tour is that I brought my daughter with me on tour for almost 6 months. And I didn't notice it, but I remember the cities I toured through with her more than I remember cities where I didn't have the family with me. Like I have pictures from some park in Lyon, or we remember the parking lot behind the Roundhouse when we performed in London, or our day off in Manchester. Like the whole idea that I remember the exact cafe where we sat and had lunch in Paris, where it's like normally on tour you don't remember these things. Where suddenly when I was touring with my family, it's like I was walking around the cities in another way and seeing the cities as just a visitor, not someone necessarily there to do a job and then move on. It sounds a little cheesy and a little cliche, but it was really cool to go on tour with my family in terms of the amounts of memories that we have now from that tour. The first time we performed in London, for example, was like this tiny little cafe somewhere. I have no memory of where it was. I just remember it was packed. There was like 120 people, and my dad was there, and some of my dad's friends that I remember from Copenhagen when we were kids. And just the idea that like my dad's been dead now for 6 years and a few months. Just the idea that every time I go to London and perform, it's like my dad saw my first gig in London. I think that's a nice thing to be able to tell myself. On a grey, rainy day, as we get plenty of in Copenhagen or London, just remind myself that he was with me here when we came and did our first gig here. We didn't have a record label in London. I think that's cool. I mean, I'm too old to be telling tour stories. My stories are going to be boring to you guys. We work out and we go to bed early. It's pretty boring. Like when you play like 14 gigs in 3 weeks, it's not like there's a big party after every gig, you know what I mean? It's a pretty gnarly business touring on that schedule.